Hello there. Coming up on the Saturday Night Showdown, a British man has been jailed for 2 years for stickers, saying things like, "It's okay to be white." It's exposing our two-tier justice system that allows anti-Israel protesters to scream for genocide while slamming British nationalists for the slightest infraction. His political opinions aren't my cup of tea, but this Orwellian decision sets a dangerous precedent for all of us. And poshos for Palestine, and the not-so-surprising revelation that the vandal behind the attack on a painting of Lord Balfour was wearing a £1,000 Mulberry backpack, a luxury handbag to keep her luxury opinions in. And everyone's favourite beer mascot, Dylan Mulvaney, has had a go at stand-up. But is he, she, they, whatever, I just read the pronouns on his badge, as convincing at being a comedian as he is at being a woman? I'll be discussing with my panel of comedians. This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all of tonight's topics are my brilliant panel. Joining me tonight, hotshot lawyer Andrew Eborn and the top comedians Diane Spencer and Quincy. But first, never mind stickers, the state should take their two-tier approach and stick it where the sun don't shine. Anyway, I'm joined tonight by lawyer, broadcaster and futurist Andrew Eborn, comedian and fudge enthusiast Diane Spencer, and award-winning funny man, Quincy. Now, Andrew, I'm going to start with you, because you've got a legal background. I mean, it seems our hate crime laws rely too much on intent and what the prosecution and what people imagine the intent and the thoughts behind
a terrible two-tier treatment, as you say, an amazing avalanche of alliteration. The reality is this: it's Section 18 of the Public Order Act 1986, which talks very specifically about use of words or behaviour or display of written material where they intend, and that's the key element, they intend thereby to stir up racial hatred. Now, every legal stuff, there's a serious bit of it, there are two things to it. There's what's called the actus reus, which is the act itself, and the other is what's called the mens rea, the guilty mind. The trouble with this is you get the headlines. So the newspaper, you get all these terrible reports and people get off. What they started to do in the legal system is to basically broadcast a lot of the sentencing so they can explain their rationale behind it. So what happens is, this happened about, I think, 2 years ago, where the very first case, they did the sentencing guidelines and they unpacked it, because every sentencing council has that. They give you a guideline as to what to do, but you start with the finding of fact. And so in this case, they found out his intent was to be racial. It was, and that was the thing. You might disagree with that, because that's our headline. It's easy to compare all the other judgments and so on and so forth, but without looking at the whole case, it's very difficult. And I always say trust comes in on foot, but leaves on horseback. What we need is clarity to make that work. And
I don't think we're getting that clarity. I mean, Quincy, this seems totally like we're seeing one group of people treated one way and another group of people treated a completely different way.
I'm going to give my right honourable friend, how you articulated that argument was absolutely superb.
Thank you. Because you could come again, Quincy.
Yeah, because Section 18 of East London is bang out of order. All right. And what is... this geezer's saying, right, it says in your rhetoric, you were saying that in 2066, there's going to be no white people, right? So he want to spend...
That's a minority.
Minority, no white people, basically, right? So what I'm trying to say... so basically, he want to spend less time worrying about everybody else, right, and start making love to his missus and get some babies. That's what he needs to do.
Well, how's he going to do that when he's in jail?
I can volunteer, right, and start off with, and get some more colour into the country.
You're offering to work as a fluffer.
There you go. You know what I mean? If that's what his main concern is, that there's no people who look like him in 2066, well, I don't think, looking at the size of him, he's going to live that long.
Well, I'll tell you one interesting thing, Quincy. There was a song by Blue Mink. Do you remember? You might remember this. Blue Mink, who did, and they had a line in it several years ago saying they're going to be coffee-coloured people by the score, and that's what they're predicting. And several years ago,
or Americanos.
There you go.
This was when coffee just came in one colour. You know what I mean?
You could do that.
Before there were millions of different types of...
That's what I said.
But this, I mean, that quote, the white British people will be a minority in their own country by 2066, that comes from an Oxford professor. That's not, plucked from...
who's clearly sleep with his missus. Yeah, I'm just saying.
You're saying all these nationalists. But the trouble with a lot of British nationalists is they're just not sexy enough.
You are in dangerous territory right now because the attractiveness of people has been discussed before on this channel, not in a very good way.
A five-pointer, that was the phrase, wasn't it?
I would just say that if you look at what he was doing, he was putting these small stickers on lampposts. Now, if you take your political leanings from something you've read on a lamppost, you've got to accept you're a bit simple to start with. But you did raise an excellent point. It's an asymmetrical application of authority going with the alliteration.
That's it.
And also, as well, what I reckon what happened as well, those stickers he's put on those lampposts, right? Reason why he's probably gone to jail, because he's covered some lost dog or cat.
And you think that's what's happened? You think the dog's missing?
And that's what sent him to jail. It was nothing to do with it. It's just like, Rover has been missing and you've covered it over. No, I'm not sending him to jail.
And that's the judges. That's the judges thing. Dog.
What they need to do, in all seriousness, to get trust back in the legal profession is to explain those other cases that you explained and you mentioned, referenced in your brilliant monologue. Because as soon as you have that as a headline, say he didn't go to prison for this, or they let him off with a little smack being a naughty boy or a naughty girl, then it makes the whole thing look ridiculous. What you need is clarity across the board, which is why they introduced TV or not TV. It's why they introduced televising of sentencing, so we get better trust from the public to understand what's happening.
Do we get that in the UK now, or is that just in America?
We do, and no, we get it here. Wall-to-wall television in America, which is brilliant. In court, strangely, I was sitting with Harry in his case, and there was a little artist. You have wall-to-wall television, pictures and videos in America. You have little sketch artists doing this sort of stuff, which is bizarre. So we don't have that yet. We do have it for the sentencing, however, and the idea of that is basically to encourage people to understand the process. If you understand the process, you can get trust in it.
Yeah, but one of the big problems is who is in charge of what is okay to think. That is a much more imposing...
and it's absolutely, it is freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of consequences, and that's the reality. You need to enforce it, and you need to enforce it across the board.
And what we really want to know as well, can he put those same stickers in that cell he's going to be in for the next couple of years?
We'll find out. Anyway, coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers in Kearse or Blessed. This week, we've got Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul, Dylan Mulvaney trying stand-up, and an anti-Israel protester slashes a painting but reveals her poshness. And we'll show you what happened when this guy delivered his speech in a house of God.
Maybe minorities, sexual and gender minorities, have something to teach the church about dying to self, about new life.
Here we go.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Kearse or Blessed coming up, but first I promised I would show you what happened when this guy gave a speech in the house of God.
Maybe minorities, sexual and gender minorities, have something to teach the church about dying to self, about new life, about... That was unnecessary. That is not a sign of God's judgment, okay?
I think God literally hit that pulpit with lightning.
He missed the trick. He should have done this and said, "Many hands make light work." It would have been brilliant.
It's time now for Kearse or Blessed. Me and my brilliant panel will look at three big stories and decide who are the week's winners and losers. First up, you may have seen the footage of the Palestine protester vandalising a painting of Lord Balfour, the man behind the 1917 declaration supporting a home for the Jewish people in Palestine. Well, there's been an update. It looks like the little madam carried her red spray and scissors in a rather expensive satchel. A £1,000 mini black quilted Cara Delevingne Napa bag. That's probably not how you pronounce Delevingne.
You said it so well, Leo.
I'm Scottish. I'm Scottish. I'm not used to words like Delevingne.
I think Leo just read out. Leo just read out the Wi-Fi pass.
How do you pronounce Delevingne?
Delphine.
Delphine. Why is it written like that then? It's written Delevingne.
She's an international superstar. How do you not pronounce her name?
Sales will plummet now.
She needs to learn how to spell Delphine, if you ask me. Anyway, it's a bag by Mulberry. If anybody's looking for a fancy present for the wife. So this is a Cambridge student with a designer bag, was destroying Balfour's portrait, simply elite virtue signalling. We never see working class people defacing art. I mean, Quincy, do you think Just Stop Oil are jealous? Because this is somebody who actually got through the perspex.
I actually saw that, and I personally feel that that could be classed as abstract art. You know what I mean? She could have remixed it. So
Like
I
when
look.
Banksy, when Banksy shredded his own painting at auction.
Yeah, and it went up in value as a result.
There you
It's a
go.
glorious
There
thing.
you
And the hammer went down, and this wonderful picture went through the thing, brilliantly shredded.
I think most modern art would go up in value if you shredded it.
I have to say that was disgusting, however, and there's a big, calling it out. I mean, forget her bag, however beautifully you sold it. The reality, that is absolutely appalling. She deserves to go to jail. You're talking about sentencing and things like that. That needs to be stopped, and that needs to be stopped right now. So people need to act incredibly quickly and condemn that.
He was one of the reasons why women could go into universities, and he created the Education Act, and he wanted to do so much to help so many people, and she's just read one thing, gone mad, and gone in there and committed this horrendous act of a beautiful painting by a very talented artist. And I went and actually saw Banksy's exhibit in Glasgow, and that painting that got shredded, the amount of iterations they had to do to actually build the mechanism to go off at exactly the right time, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I personally feel the security should follow her to prison as well, because they stood there and watched her do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Did they?
And I can imagine them all sitting back thinking, I don't get paid enough for this. They sat there like Tesco security guards.
It's like the one time. It's the one time they actually
you had
need to do
one
their
job. You had
they got
one job.
and nobody ever goes into slash painting. So that's the one time they could actually earn their money, and they didn't. Anyway, Dylan Mulvaney. Remember him, her, they, them, it, that. The transgender TikToker who tanked Bud Light after he was featured in one of their adverts. Well, he's tried his hand at stand-up as well. In a skit that surfaced on social media, Mulvaney takes aim at conservatives.
I would feel like I was a part of something bigger than myself. That was a double entendre. Look at me doing stand-up. The conservative men are just pissed that I can beat them in beer pong. And the conservative women are pissed that their kids are calling me mother in all of my Instagram accounts.
Now, we have a few comedians on the panel tonight. What's the verdict on Dylan's efforts? I mean, Diane, I love the way Dylan convincingly spanks his bum, just like a real woman, just like real women do all the time. In no way a caricature of womanhood. But what do you rate the stand-up? Is it as convincing as the transition?
I mean, number one, when you do stand-up as a woman, you have to deal with the innate sexism that you get the second you walk on stage. You don't get it from everyone, but every so often you'll get somebody who'll just look at you. I've had people literally go, nah, and like just fold their arms, walk away. I've had people loudly ordering drinks to each other.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Dilvan's ever going to have to necessarily put up with that. I think it's interesting. Like, I personally didn't enjoy the act, but it's comedy.
Yeah.
So somebody else is going to find it funny. I personally didn't, but I don't think it's been written for me. No. Andrew loves it.
No, credit where... Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I'd love you even more if you brought fudge. Credit where credit is due, however. I thought Dylan did incredibly well. I have seen...
Dilvan.
I used to be chair. I used to be... Who?
Dilvan.
Is it Dilvan? No, it's Dylan. Dylan.
It should be, shouldn't it be?
Well, now it is my turn to correct the name for you.
Look at you. Not just misgendering, but adding consonants. There's nothing worse. Nothing worse. I thought Dylan did very well, and I've seen far worse. I used to be chair of the Montreux Comedy Festival, and people come from all over the world, and I thought she delivered pretty well. I thought the material, okay.
Yeah, for a first goal concert, I've seen much worse. I'm pretty sure I was much worse than that.
Yes,
and also probably more famous.
I liked how the person was literally... No, it's not in person. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Look at you.
That's
So right on.
I liked how they brought Asda's into it, because they all slapped in the back. They brought Asda's into it, and this just shows me that this ain't my world, because I didn't know who that person was until I walked into this building.
Right.
Yeah. So
there you go.
Right. Well, it's great they're now sponsored by Asda. Well, moving on, after Anthony Joshua's victory last night, boxing fans have another battle to look forward to. YouTuber Jake Paul is to take on former heavyweight Mike Tyson in July. With a mere 30 years between the two of them, it's been alleged that fights like this degrade boxing altogether. Not that either participant will be concerned. They're expected to earn more than $9 million each from the fight. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is when Rome was in decline and the emperor staged these fights in the Colosseum, you know, increasingly bizarre fights between giraffes and bears and things like that to try and distract the people. But Quincy, you're a boxer as well.
Are you?
Used to. I used to love
your act, by the way.
Don't. Everyone online going, I'll fire.
Jake Paul probably would.
Jake Paul, being from that world, to me, is the biggest liberty that it diminishes boxing as an art form. It just shows that money talks, even as we saw last night with the Joshua fight.
Yeah.
That Francis Ngannou should not be in that ring with him.
Yeah. Because he's not a boxer.
He's not a boxer.
MMA.
I mean, he's a great MMA fighter, but he's not a boxer. And Jake Paul fighting a 57-year-old legend. He ain't fighting a boxer. He's fighting a brand.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Yeah. So who's next? Do I fight Elvis?
I think you should fight Elvis. I think that's a
don't
great...
give them ideas. But I mean, Andrew, this is. It does seem like it's almost exploitative. I mean, Mike Tyson is 57. To be fair, I've seen some footage of Mike Tyson training and sparring, and he looks like he could definitely batter me.
I know, you're right. And what I love is that new, invigorated Joe Biden's going to be in the next round, because I think that'll be fantastic. So he was brilliant the day before. P.T. Barnum, the great showman, said, if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight. And you're right, it's the big brands.
He wasn't talking about.
Be working on that.
He wasn't talking about boxing.
But he was around then.
It's kind of essential for boxing. You do need to have a fight at some point. Are you going to watch it, Diane?
Sometimes I'm not very good with boxing. I mean, a little bit of blood and I'll keel over into my curry. But what I think is quite interesting with the point that you made about the brands is that I can think of one positive, and that there might be a whole generation of kids who know Jake Paul, but they don't know Mike Tyson, and he might get another little bump from it, which is kind of nice.
No, because the reality is this. If Jake Paul was fighting the Tyson on the way up, he wouldn't even think about that.
Oh, no, he wouldn't go anywhere near it.
So why wait for a man who's still got his name, like BMW, and then say, and you're not fighting him to beat him, you're fighting him just to keep yourself relevant. To me, you're disrespecting a legend. And even Mike Tyson's people, I would talk to them. You shouldn't be fighting this man. You've got a legend.
I was going to say, Tyson could say no.
He could say no. He should say no.
He's got 9 million reasons why he's not going to say no. And I would work on that principle.
As you mentioned, Leo, you mentioned the fact of you see Mike Tyson do his shadow boxing. Logan, I've seen Kearse punch a bag.
Yeah.
That's a fight.
I don't think Kearse can beat the bag. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we've got the massive medical scandal around child transitioning that's breaking this week, and we'll show you how Hollyoaks is pushing a storyline about child transitioning. Plus, I'll show you what happened when this lady went to the shops. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. First, I promised I would show you what happened when this lovely lady got more than she bargained for during a shopping trip. Well, look about that. She didn't let go. She didn't let go of her shopping trolley.
Damn right she did. Absolutely brilliant. Well, she was in fact supposed to be going into the shop to clean it, and the guy who came and rescued her, I mean, it's a brilliant story. I've been loving it all week. What happened is the guy who came to rescue was the shop owner, and it was his fault because he'd been trying to get the revenge of her forever, I think. And so she was sort of obviously hooked up on that sort of stuff. But you're right, holding on to the trolley for dear life is glorious.
I love that you've done the deep dive research on this.
The stories for everything. I can do everything from whatever I can act it is, and the reason for that, to the slashing
and
stuff,
watching
to this.
Watching that clip as well, you've got to blame the government, because if they lowered if they lowered the age of retirement, right, she wouldn't have been here in the first place.
Oh, you're probably right.
She'd retired at 40.
There you go.
I mean, it's lucky, the obesity crisis isn't any worse, or she would have probably would have snapped and she'd have fallen. It could have been terrible. And Quincy, the thing that worries me, we're going to see a deluge of claims from people who feel that they that have detransitioned and feel that they were sort of missold, not their PPI, but their transition. I mean, as a taxpayer, I didn't want to pay for the transition in the first place, and now I'm going to have to pay for them to detransition and have to pay for claims. I think I'm the real victim here.
I think that, personally, this is what I'm going to say. Yeah? Let me just take a sip for this.
There was also, they did...
I was going to...
Oh, OK.
This is a dramatic pause.
Yeah, I was just going to say, look, the fact that it was leaked and they kept it in-house, I don't condone snitching. But in this case, all power to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's about kids potentially being damaged. It's horrific stuff. And there's no sign of companies cutting back on advertising with trans influencers, even though it sometimes backfires, as it did with Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney. This week, Doritos, the corn crisps, have sacked trans influencer Samantha Hudson after it was revealed that Samantha had written social media posts threatening to do thuggish things to a 12-year-old girl. Other old posts by Samantha, born Ivan Gonzalez Renedo, read, "In the middle of the street in Mallorca in panties and screaming that I'm a nymphomaniac in front of a super beautiful 8-year-old girl. Not the sort of thing you want your mascot to be shouting." And another declared, "I hate women who are victims of sexual assault and go to self-help centres to overcome their trauma. Annoying," I can't say this word, but it rhymes with klutz. Samantha Hudson said they were sorry for the tweets, which were described as pure provocation and in very bad taste. Well, that's all right then. That's fine. I mean, like, literally sort of...
That's what you want with a chip brand, isn't it? Bad taste. When you're advertising food.
The chips are certainly down. The reality is this, that everything you've ever said to anybody ever is going to come out and work on that sort of principle. It was an appalling judgment. And a lot of people, when they're talking about damage limitation, if somebody takes you on as an agency or whatever, they say, look, tell us all the skeletons in the cupboard so we can deal with that. The brand are quite right to call it out. What was said there is despicable, and it's quite right.
Don't you think the brand should have done just like... I mean, everybody's got access to Google. Just Google and have a little search on their social media to see if they've said anything revealing themselves to be a massive paedophile before you hire them, surely.
Well, what's interesting there is they're hiring people based already on their social media traction. Yeah. So if you're hiring someone on their social media traction, like not their talent, not their audition, nothing like that, then how come it wasn't spotted? Yeah. Well, maybe Satanists do run the world and the conspiracy theories are right. And the Channel 4 soap Hollyoaks hit the headlines this week for pushing the idea that it's absolutely, totally, completely normal for a male stranger in a dress to talk to your child without your knowledge. Take a look at this.
I'm a boy, but my body's all wrong, and how am I supposed to tell my parents?
I'll help you in whatever way I can. But you need to know that your life is in your hands.
I mean, this goes against everything I was taught as a kid. We're told to, stranger danger and all the rest of it. I feel like they're trying to sort of normalise the idea of, a trans woman coming in and talking to your kid behind your back.
I mean, I don't know the actual, specifics of that storyline. I mean, soap operas have always been known...
Neither do I, but I made up. I filled it in with my imagination.
Never let the truth stand in the way of a good story. I know.
You do know there will be a character arc. There will be a whole, soap operas have got a history of sort of tackling social issues. So I'm not actually surprised that Hollyoaks have brought this in, because as soon as something kind of is trending on X or whatever, they'll bring a storyline out about it and they'll explore it that way. Although I must admit, the way that was filmed was maybe talk to the DOP, because that was quite scary lighting.
I was just happy that my friend Richard Blackwood wasn't in that scene, because he's in Hollyoaks.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because I think there would have been some ad-libbing in that scene.
But this is, I mean, we've seen Hollyoaks, well, not Hollyoaks, it was Brookside, the first lesbian kiss in a soap opera, although not the first one I'd seen, thanks to a taxi driver who sold my dad a VHS. But I mean, we're seeing people, pushing sort of social progress, but I feel like this is a part of the progress maybe we should have a warning about the potential downside, especially after what we've seen.
Well, I think there's a difference between showing a lesbian kiss or gay couples in soap operas, because it's supposed to reflect reality, so we're not shielding people from that. If you're pushing it down the other way, so it basically becomes the other extreme, that's got to be wrong. And we always talk about respect, but it's respect for everybody in the conversation. what people are not going to try and do is look, why am I not doing this or why aren't we doing that? People get taken to pantomime where people dress up in outfits and people object to, the people dressing up in to tell story time, drag story time and so on and so forth.
At pantomime, they're like 20 feet away from the kids and they're acting on a stage. They're not like, they don't have the kid on their knee.
That was scary.
What did the wolf do? You know what I mean? It's like, why do you want to read stories to kids? Why don't you go into old folks' home? I'm sure old folks would love to have their day brightened by somebody in drag coming in and reading
you're
some
absolutely right.
stories.
And this is what we need to look at. It's all about context and it's all about that sort of side. But you're right. Respect. Let's recognise the diverse, glorious society that we have, but let's not shove it down their throats.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
I tried to fist you. I set you up.
Or any other orifice. Next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we're going to tell you why SNP leader Humza Yousaf is having a terrible week. Plus, I'll show you the unusual catch made by these fishermen. Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Sophie Ellis-Bextor is coming up, but first I promised I would show you what these fishermen caught. Yeah, that is Rick Waller, I mean. So what's the... I didn't know whether to say Rick Waller or James Corden there. Managed to get it completely wrong. I'm not doing well with names today. Anyway, it's not the weirdest thing we've ever caught, but that's between us and the STD clinic. It's time for Clown World, and starting us off is Sophie Ellis-Bextor singing Murder on the Dance Floor at the Bataclan, the site of the 2015 terror attacks. More offensive, I think, is the response of the authorities after every Islamic terror attack. They say, don't look back in anger. It's the religion of peace. Don't ask any questions or you're Islamophobic. I mean, Diane, I've got some sympathy for Sophie Ellis-Bextor. She had to sort of reference it before singing that song. And she could not sing that song because it's her... Just about her only song.
Yeah, it's her big old party piece. But Sophie Ellis-Bextor comes across to me as an incredibly nice individual, and that is a really, really great disco song, and they knew that they were booking her, but it was weird. Like, there is a cringy moment where she sort of acknowledges the song, and then she sings it, and the problem is, I don't think she could win in this situation.
Yeah, she had to reference it.
Yeah. I thought she did win. She handled it with grace. It was rather like, you're killing it means you're doing very well. Yeah. The lyrics of the song are very unfortunate in the place that she sang because of the atrocities that happened. But it was made famous by the brilliant Saltburn. We were talking about this, and Barry doing his naked dance through the thing. You haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it. Well, I have spoiled it. It's a fantastic thing. And making that iconic song and her bringing it back again is superb.
Yeah, Saltburn is overrated. Anyway, talking of atrocities, it's been a bad week for Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf. First up, the Telegraph revealed that he overruled official advice to give £250,000 to a Gaza aid agency linked to Hamas, allegedly, by Israeli intelligence. His own officials recommended a donation of £100,000 to UNICEF, but he overruled them and handed taxpayers' cash to the UNRWA, which, according to Israel, had employees who took part in Hamas terrorist attacks of 7th October. The employees have been let go. I think that's quite a bad thing to do as an extracurricular activity in your job. But there are also allegations that he breached the ministerial code as his in-laws were on holiday in Gaza at the time and needed to escape, which they successfully did. And then it came out on Friday that the SNP has received only one major donation from a living person since he took over as leader. In the time with Humza as leader, they've raked in only £75,000. Compare that with over £8 million when Alex Salmond was in power. Where has it all gone wrong for the boy Humza?
I mean, he's kind of proving that the SNP are really bad at finances, which we know from the luxury motorhome that was parked outside Nicola Sturgeon's mother-in-law's house.
Yeah, because they depreciate like milk.
Like all the financial documents inside. So already the SNP is mired in financial scandal. So why Humza Yousaf went against all of his advisors and thought this was a good idea? Ridiculous.
Well, finally, this week, I'm just going to squeeze this in. Trump showed that he's just a big kid who'll do anything for a laugh when he posted a video of Joe Biden's State of the Union address with a few funny filters. Let's have a look.
We're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. So trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933. Also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires.
OK, Quincy, are you looking forward to Trump's second presidency? It looks like he's going to win.
The fact that America is so big, those are the last two people who can save a combined age of Moses.
OK, well, right up next is Mark Dolan tonight. What have you got for us this evening, Mark?
Well, Leo, could a return of Boris Johnson to the Tories before the election save their fortunes? Also, after they got clobbered this week, are people that own second homes selfish? Plus, Meghan Markle is planning her UK comeback. Don't hold your breath.
Sounds brilliant, Mark. Can't wait to watch it. Well, thanks to my brilliant panel tonight, and I'll see you again next week. And don't forget Headliners as well, tonight at 11 p.m. See you next week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.